So this next question is asking about art unit predictor tools and what are the benefits of using them with regard to your patent strategy. And an art unit prediction tool is just trying to take a guess at where your patent might land at the patent office. Art units are really groups of employees that handle a particular technology. So they'll be organized by tech centers. So you might have biotech or business methods or mechanical innovations. And then within there, you'll have groups of, 10, 5, 25 patent examiners that all work on cases that relate to some topic, and that will be the art unit. So you might have somebody that handles some group art unit that handles cable boxes, right, for cable television and streaming video, right? And they'll evolve over time. Like I had worked with that group for a long time. And then what they found is some of the innovation had to do with hardware, some of the innovation had to do with software. So they split it out and you had two art units. One that handled the software, one that handled the hardware. And the people that work in that area know those innovations very well, and they're very good at examining those. So as you file a case, it goes to a classifier. That person and the software that they use helps them say, oh, this has to do with set-top box hardware. Let's send it to those folks. Or this has to do with set-top box software. Let's send it to those folks. Or it has to do with something completely different. It's video cameras and taking of videos, and it goes maybe to another group art unit. And then those group art units generally have they have statistics on how hard it is to get a case through that art unit, how many rounds of arguments you might have, how long it's going to take, how backed up they are. So the triangle tool, for example, uses those predictions to very early on, as you upload your idea, give you a guess on how hard it is going to be to get your case through the office. And then ultimately you get assigned to an examiner, and we'll look at the statistics of that examiner and give you very particularized statistics with regard to your particular case, because we know your examiner. So these art unit predictor tools, they underlie the statistical models for the triangle tool, but they also can be used. We've broken it out separately so you can put an idea or a summary of your idea or the text from your claims or the text from your patent application in there, and it'll guess where it might land. It will give a few different options that are likely to, art units that are likely to get your case. So you can get an idea whether or not you're going to get to a hard part of the patent office or an easy part of the patent office. And what these tools allow you to do is very early on, as you're writing the case, when you've done the claims or when you have the idea written up, to get an idea of whether or not that patent, if it gets written up and the application gets filed, is ever likely to issue. And that's helpful because it has to do with budgeting, right? There are parts of the patent office that have very low allowance rates, and you'll have a large number of rounds of argument which cost money as your counsel does those arguments. So you can get an idea whether this case is going to be expensive or cheap on average. Of course, your particular case is going to be examined on its merits, but at any rate, there are trends. So when you go into the portfolio manager, for example, for the tool, we have this 2x2 matrix that tells you for each of your cases how many rounds of argument are predicted for your examiner and how many rounds of argument you've had. So, and you'll see a diagonal line there that will give you an indication. Those cases that are above the diagonal are going longer than average. The ones that are below the diagonal are doing better than average. And what you generally want to see is you want to see a cluster below the diagonal. And what that will tell you is that you're getting your cases through quicker, right? Which could be you have better innovation, you have better counsel, maybe you have a bias toward narrow claims to get your cases quicker. There's lots of reasons why you should be below the diagonal. But at least very quickly you can identify whether there are cases that are taking too long or not, because you can see how your case is doing against the batting average of your examiner. So the art unit prediction tool helps the patent drafter get an idea of how that case might be handled. And having worked with these tools, we pioneered the first version of this with a friend of ours who was developing it, and ultimately sold it to one of the big legal tech companies when he sold his company. But we helped him kind of put this together so that we could get an idea of this case as it's drafted is likely to go to a good part of the office, and this case is likely to go to a bad part of the office. And it might simply be information you give your clients to say, look, it's going to be hard to get this through. What we've been able to do as we file patents for clients is often we can take an idea, somebody wants to cover a particular innovation or a feature, and sometimes you can talk about it as a high level. Sometimes that'll get you a bad part of the patent office. So what we'll do, even as we're taking the disclosure and talking to the innovators, is we'll dig down on those ones that are likely to be a bad part in the patent office. And often a few layers down, there's some technology that enables that feature that can be just as good as a blocking patent, if you were able to get a patent through, as covering the high-level idea. But if you had pursued the high-level idea describing it rather straightforwardly, you would never get your patent. So a patent that never issues is like a tree that falls in the woods, and you just don't know if it ever did or not because no one saw it. So you want to get a patent, and then that gives the options to enforce it or do all the things that you might do with your patent. But if it never issues, it's kind of pointless. So what the art unit predictor tool does very early in the process is it gives you a sense of whether or not you're going to get a patent or not, or if there's a risk you'll get to one of these bad areas. So you might reformulate your strategy, you might go after a different innovation. Often when I'm meeting with clients, we'll come up with 6 or 7 things that we could patent. And these art unit predictor tools may help you say, well, wait a minute, those 2, let's just put them off the list because we'll never get those patents through. So it allows you to prioritize ideas based on the likelihood you will get a patent. Because unfortunately, things vary wildly at the patent office. And you don't want to be pursuing an impossible case. And we've seen it many times where, as we started to develop some of these techniques, we started to get all the problem cases. And it wasn't unusual to see something that had been 14 rounds of argument and not going anywhere at the patent office. And on that particular case, had it been drafted just a little bit differently to focus in on some of the underlying details, it might have been a case that got through in 2 rounds of argument, which is more typical. 2 to 4 rounds is pretty typical. Whereas 14 rounds, I had asked the client how much they had spent on argument, and they had spent $70,000 arguing the case, which was unfortunate because had it been crafted a little bit better from the beginning, it might have been something that issued with a couple rounds of argument, maybe $10,000 worth of argument versus, $70,000 worth of argument. So the art unit prediction tool will help your drafters frame your innovation better or pick the better ideas. So from the get-go, you have the best chances possible of getting the protection you want for your products. So I hope that answers the question. You can put some follow-up in the comments below, or you can send us a new question. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.